Hello everyone, Nathan here, and if I were to say to you the word sequel, you'd probably bring to mind any number of terrible game or movie sequels that were nowhere near as good as the original in the series, or in fact were clearly made just to piggyback on previous successes to make money. And to some extent you'd be right to think that. But sometimes a game series needs a sequel in order to realise the potential that it couldn't achieve the first time out. Of course it's not all good, and I'll be talking about some of the negatives here too, but today I want to focus on two fairly recent games in the form of Titanfall 2 and before that, Watch Dogs 2. Now for me, when I played the original Watch Dogs, my short form review could have been summarised in just two words: letdown. Some of the systems in the game were very limited and restricted, the graphics famously weren't as good as they were promised, and probably worst of all, the main character was one of the most unlikable assholes ever to take on the mantle of protagonist. I think it'd be fair then not to expect too much from the sequel, but surprisingly, Watch Dogs 2 is, in my opinion, a really good game. It takes the basic concept and mechanics of the original and adds to them in meaningful ways. Where the original Watch Dogs emphasised guns, Watch Dogs 2 emphasises stealth and hacking. Where Watch Dogs had a dreary, underdeveloped environment in Chicago, Watch Dogs 2 has the colourful and fun San Francisco. And most importantly, where Watch Dogs had Aiden Asshole Pierce, Watch Dogs 2 has Marcus Holloway, a character you can actually root for, and I genuinely think that Watch Dogs 2 is the game that the original should have been. Aside from anything else, the entire tone of the game has changed, and Watch Dogs 2 is actually funny at times instead of super serious and up its own arse. It's got great parodies of Google, Martin Shkreli, Scientology, and probably way more that I haven't even found yet. It seems that Ubisoft took the strong sales performance of Watch Dogs as proof that people would actually buy a hacker game, and then made what people really wanted in Watch Dogs 2. Don't get me wrong here, the game isn't perfect and yes it has its issues, but it's 10 times the game of the original Watch Dogs. So as I alluded to at the start, there's another game that I've been playing recently that shows off some similar qualities. Yes, it's Titanfall 2. Now the comparison here isn't quite as stark as, unlike Watch Dogs, the original Titanfall is actually a pretty damn good game, but it definitely had its issues. Two main problems really come to mind, namely the lack of any kind of single player campaign, and secondly the fact that after a month or two of the game coming out, a massive portion of its player base had disappeared. Titanfall 2 has made strides to solve both. Obviously it now has a single player campaign that's actually been getting quite a lot of praise from most of the major review outlets, and even though you'll almost definitely still want to buy the game mainly for the multiplayer, the campaign is still an appreciated addition. As for the player base issues, well, one of the biggest theories as to why the original Titanfall died off was that it didn't have progression to keep players coming back and going for more. And boy have they solved that in Titanfall 2. In fact, they might have even gone too far the other way, with things now getting a bit grindy. Respawn have also announced that new maps will be available for free, in order to avoid splitting the player base, and in my opinion that's the model that pretty much all shooters nowadays should be pursuing. And had it not been for EA's bizarre decision to launch this one at the same time as COD and Battlefield, I feel Titanfall 2 would have much more staying power as a result. So that all sounds rosy, right? Great, fantastic. These sequels are way better than the originals and that's a fantastic thing. Well, there are problems with that. The fact is that for the most part here, and particularly with Watch Dogs, the consumers who bought the original are being asked to pay twice just to get what they wanted in the first place. Sure, there's the old adage of buyer beware, but when the companies marketing these games are blatantly lying to you and showing you a product that doesn't really exist, that somewhat goes out the window. It seems as though consumers have been funding the development process for these companies as they actually try to make the game into what they originally promised us, and I'm not sure I'm okay with that. Now you might think I'm getting a bit pissy over nothing, and consumers are responsible for their own purchases, and fair enough, that's a valid opinion. But the fact is that this practice isn't good for the developers either, as we can see from the initial sales figures from Watch Dogs 2, which are quote, nowhere near Watch Dogs 1. It looks like people seem to remember how let down they were by the original, and are less willing to hand over their hard-earned cash for the next installment. And honestly, that's a shame, because Watch Dogs 2 is a far superior game. I think the lesson to developers then has to be to get your games right the first time. Don't try and sell something before the concept's fully developed and everything works perfectly. It works out better for consumers who get what they want first time and don't have to pay twice just to get it. And long term it works out better for the devs and publishers too, as there'll be more trust that they can provide what they actually say they're going to. Now, I don't want you all to get me wrong here, I am glad that Watch Dogs and Titanfall got their sequels, and that both appear to be very good games. I just would have preferred to get this in the first place. Anyway, that's about it for today. I apologise if I got a little bit rambly and maybe even turned into a rant at some stages in today's video, but I'd like to know what you guys think about this. Are you happy to have got these sequels now and that's enough for you, or would you rather have had them in the first place? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, I'd also be very appreciative if you'd click that like button down below, that really helps me out, and subscribe for more like this if you haven't already. I've been Nathan, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.